talk now to Kevin Jackson. He's the executive director of the Black Sphere and Black Conservative Coalition, and he blames moral decay of the community for what we're seeing in Ferguson. Mr. Jackson, thanks so much for being here. What do you mean moral decay of the community?
Well, I mean, I think there are many things that could have possibly diffused this situation, and secondarily, the outcome of, what happened and the looting and the things that have gone on subsequent to that.
Okay.
So I think it's just a sign of the moral decay.
So you mean that you think you're blaming everything that's happening in Ferguson on the community, so the anger and the outrage that the people there are feeling because an unarmed black teenager was shot, you blame their moral decay rather than whatever that police officer was thinking who shot the unarmed black teenager.
Well, I mean, look, Allison, how many black teenagers have been killed since the death of Michael Brown? Nobody cares. There are 60 people shot in Chicago last weekend, and I don't know how many of them got killed. Nobody cares, but we decide to make an issue out of this, and the issue gets bigger than just what really we should be focusing on, which is the actual details, because there's not anybody that knows the details at this point. And here, we've got looting, people profiteering from this. I would ask the question, did any of the people who profited from this by breaking into these stores and breaking up people's businesses and busting into their businesses, did they take anything to the Brown family? Did they do anything to support that lady and that man in their time of need? And the answer is no, because it was profiteering. You just had a politician on that got interviewed, and she might as well have been cutting a commercial for herself in her re-election campaign. She's talking about kumbaya. She hasn't said a word about the number of black youth that get killed in that community every year. That she's not out there at ground zero hoping for that.
I mean,
so it's hypocritical.
But what we're seeing actually is an outpouring of grief and of outrage because unarmed black teenagers are being killed. This isn't the first time. I mean, you say nobody cares about what's going on in Chicago. I challenge you on that. People are talking about that there seems to be a trend. There seems to be something going wrong that unarmed black teenagers are being killed.
Well, Allison, I challenge you and say how many of these types of parades, because that's what it is, it's a parade atmosphere, how many of these have you seen for people who've been killed in any big city in America? Name one. You have Trayvon Martin and now you have Michael Brown. And I'd ask your viewers another question. Can you tell me, or Don tell me how many cops have been killed in 2014?
The reason that
I can tell you, the number's 27. The number of cops that have been killed are 27. One was killed most recently in New Jersey because he was set up, and the wife of the man who was killed, of the person who killed the cop and was later subsequently killed, she wanted more cops killed. You have the new Black Panther Party flying in, who have talked about killing cracker babies, and what are they there for? So, look, you want to talk about moral decay?
Yes, I mean, I want to talk about what's happening in Ferguson. I want to just focus it on what's happening in Ferguson, because what we've learned about Michael Brown is that he was a kid who graduated from high school, which is sometimes saying a lot. He did not have any police prior history, and he was about to go to college, to technical college this week. I read that he was going to be studying, he was going to go to college for heating and air conditioning engineering, which tells me that he wanted an honest, solid job. And so there doesn't seem to be any moral decay with him, and yet he ended up dead.
I'm not talking about moral decay with Michael Brown. I don't know enough about what Michael Brown's history to say one thing or the other. And the one thing I would say about that, it's a tragic thing that happened to Michael Brown, and if the cop that shot him did something that's wrong, then there certainly is a reason for an outcry for that. But if you want to tell me that death is,
that's what we're seeing.
If you want to tell me that death is any different than any of the deaths that have occurred with the many other black kids, who, by the way, are killed most likely unfortunately, by black kids in their own neighborhoods, I call foul.